Hello, everyone. It's Art Russell here at Think Twice on YouTube and thinktwice.me at wordpress.com. As the title of this video suggests, today we're going to dive deep into the nature of personal reality. I hope that by sharing some information about the nature of the mind, the importance of our personal beliefs, the placebo effect, that you'll be able to manifest more of what you desire in your life and less of what you don't. Now, this might even include the possibility of greater health. Now, I want to be very clear. My intention is not to offer medical advice in any way, and I'm not doing that at all. I'm only hoping that some of the information I share may help supplement the methods that you're using or believe in for yourself. So let's get right into it. After we awaken from a nighttime dream, we don't say, I did this or I did that. We clarify it. We say, I dreamed that I did this, or I dreamed that I did that, perhaps flying over an ocean or traveling across a great desert. We realize after awakening that both of those events occurred within a dream. Now, that's what I'm stating enlightenment feels like, is like. We realize that the reality that we believed was so absolutely a fact was occurring in fact, within a dream. So let's look a little deeper into the mind and examine placebo effect. We're probably all well aware that placebo, the famous example is when a sugar pill is given, but with the patient believing that he or she has been given an actual medication. There's no active ingredients within the drug, and yet sometimes miraculous effects take place. Symptoms are relieved and a patient gets better. A famous case is related of Mr. Wright in 1957. The man had been diagnosed with advanced cancer of the lymph nodes. He had large tumors all over his body. And he was in such a weakened state, he couldn't take any of the regular treatments at the time. But he overheard that there was a drug called Crobozine at the time that was being tested to effect a cure. So he basically begged his doctor to give him an injection, and the doctor relented and administered this drug, Crobozine it was called, and the doctor went home, it's related, and 3 days back was back in hospital to pay a visit to Mr. Wright. Now, much to his surprise, the doctor saw that the tumors had shrunk and that Mr. Wright was presenting with great vigor, or definitely increased vigor, and over the next several days, the tumors shrank. It's quoted as though they were snowballs on a hot skillet, just shrinking so quickly. It's reported that 10 days later, Mr. Wright was discharged from hospital, and he spent the next 2 months cancer-free. But it's reported that he heard or read a report that the studies about the drug were pointing to it not being effective. And as you might guess, the tumors reoccurred. Now, he went back to his doctor, and the doctor, knowing what had likely happened, told Mr. Wright that, the case here is really that we got a bad batch of Crobozine. I've got a new batch of it. This is the finest of the fine. And the doctor did something that wouldn't be allowed by today's standards. He administered normal saline, so no drug at all. This was placebo. And Mr. Wright, believing, experienced cure, or at least the symptoms of the disease went away. He was discharged again from hospital and spent the next 2 months free of any signs and symptoms of the disease. However, it was reported, and Mr. Wright saw this in the news, that the trials had been decided that they were an absolute flop. Tumors came back, he was admitted to hospital, and 2 days later, he apparently died. So there's one of the famous examples of placebo effect. Now, I would definitely link this to the powers of the mind. Now, there's also nocebo effect, which means to cause harm. And that's when someone believing adopts a belief so thoroughly, consciously, subconsciously, that the mind goes to work and creates those effects. This will be more easily understood if I share a quote from a book called The Law of Success by Paramahansa Yogananda. It's a very short quote, but it's this: the mind is the creator of everything. All objects, events, the world. Now you might go, well, where do I come into that? The deeper essential you is consciousness, dreaming a world, dreaming all bodies, all events. Now, let's tie that back to the first example I gave about a nighttime dream. During the nighttime dream, did you not believe, I'm sure you believed, that all events and persons involved, all the circumstances seemed real? In fact, they feel so real that sometimes we wake up in a sweat because the dream was that real. So I'd like to share some more information about powers of the mind, placebo effect, and the nature of our personal reality through some passages that I've got in some books here. The first is from a book called The Nature of Personal Reality. It's a Seth book by Jane Roberts. Now, Jane Roberts became quite famous years and years ago for being the conduit to channeled content, several books, many books, from a non-local, let's call entity called Seth. So here's the passage that I'm going to relate from this book. As you can see, I highlight sections here with the hope of gaining more understanding myself and then relating that to you. Here's the passage. Because of your psychological and psychic structure, there is within you the rich makeup of your being, a literally endless variety of what you may call probable selves. In one reality or another, these will all be experienced. In your present existence, however, you will utilize only those psychological characteristics that you believe you possess. So the importance of belief, which was demonstrated in the case with Mr. Wright and the drug carbozine. His belief was what was most important. So you see, the personality cannot be defined as being thus and so. The physical constitution of the body follows your beliefs. And so all of its sense data will faithfully mirror the beliefs that direct its activity. In certain terms, hypnosis is simply an exercise in the alteration of beliefs, and only too clearly shows that sense experience follows expectations. The you that you presently conceive yourself to be represents the emergence into physical experience of but one probable state of your being, who then directs corporeal life and frames and defines all sense data. When your ideas about yourself change, so does your experience. Now, this relates deeply to the law of attraction, which says that we experience what we believe. We have to have that first in consciousness, whether it's a healing, wealth, improved relationships. We have to get that in consciousness. And this is because the power gradient flows from spirit to mind to apparent body. Now keep in mind, those are all made out of the only substance that is consciousness. Some might call it aware or awareness, but for now let's just call it consciousness. Let's move on to another book here that may point to greater understanding and I hope be of service to you in some way. This book is I Am That, famous spiritual classic relating talks between Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and seekers. Here's the passage. We do not wake up into a really waking state. In the waking state, the world emerges due to ignorance and takes one into a waking state dream. Instead of this actually being a reality where the majority of persons believe that, oh yes, they're living their lives, they're making the decisions, they're walking, talking, and everything else that happens to the person, this is realized as occurring in a similar way to the nighttime dream, the events in a nighttime dream. Both sleep and waking are misnomers. We're only dreaming. True waking and true sleeping, only the Gnani knows. Now that would be a knower. We dream that we are awake. We dream we are asleep. The three states are only varieties of the dream state. Treating everything as a dream liberates. As long as you give reality to dreams, you are their slave. By imagining that you are born as so-and-so, so Art Russell, you become a slave to the so-and-so. Basically, the perspective of the person governs what you believe is possible, and isn't it true? If you believe you're a person with a certain skill set, you believe that's all you have, you don't believe you can go any further through study or practice, being mentored by someone else, you will remain at that level. This is about rising in consciousness, becoming more aware of that which we truly are. When we do, we come into more power. This is why I share this information, with the hopes that you will examine some of your beliefs about yourself. Not come to believe that you are spirit, consciousness, but to experience it directly. That's the only way it's going to have any real difference in your life. Let's move on to the last book I'm going to share about today, and it's called The Intimacy of All Experience by Rupert Spira. He's a noted author, speaker, lectures about non-duality, our essential nature, the nature of consciousness. Okay, so let's go to the first. I have many quotes from Rupert today from his book. So we start with the conventional formulation that I, inside the body, this is the assumption, am looking out at an objective and independent world of objects. We're basically assuming it exists independent of the mind. This is a position of dualism. I, the body, the subject, am experiencing the world and others. That's the object. From here, our attention is drawn to the fact that the body, brackets, sensations and perceptions is what we're really experiencing. A sensation which we assume to be of a body, it's just a sensation, or perception of a body. And the mind, thoughts and images are in fact experienced in exactly the same way as is the world, which is perceptions. It is seen clearly that the body-mind is not the subject of experience and the world the object, but rather that the body, mind, and world are all objects of experience. The true knowing of that is non-local. We're able to, when we sit in meditation, we're able to have the knowing that thoughts, sensations, perceptions are being witnessed. There is witnessing of those. Let's go on to another passage here. It is not the body that contains awareness and separates it from the world, but rather our true body, awareness, that contains the body, mind, and world. Can you begin to see the importance of the beliefs that we're holding? What beliefs are you holding regarding yourself, the mind, the world? This is basically saying, like Joe Dispenza says, to change your personal reality, you've got to change your personality. Imagine yourself as that which you desire to be. During this incarnation, imagine the healing if that's what you're seeking. And again, that's not medical advice. It's just showing that that can supplement what other treatments you might be having. Or if you wish to gain weight, lose weight, become more athletic, be able to experience something in consciousness that you haven't experienced prior. Here's another quote. What evidence is there that the world exists in between two perceptions of it? What evidence do you have that the world exists when it is not being perceived, or that the body exists when it is not being experienced? Even when the apparent world is being perceived, even when perceptions are seemingly present, the world does not exist as it is so conceived. That is, it does not stand out on its own, independent of consciousness. No, the world, the body, mind, all appear within consciousness. That's our direct experience. That's not a belief. And let's move on. All right, here's the final one from this. We think that the body is solid, lasting, and substantial, and that awareness is fleeting, impermanent, and insubstantial. Our actual experience is the opposite. It is consciousness that is ever present and substantial, whereas the body is an ever-changing flow of fleeting, impermanent, and insubstantial sensations and perceptions. Occurring where? In consciousness. Consciousness is all there is. That's why we have books such as Neville Goddard's, one of his, Consciousness is the Only Reality. Another book that I'm currently reading by Tony Parsons called All There Is. All there is? Consciousness, or awareness. I hope that this information has been useful to you today. If you'd like to find out more information, you can do so at my blog at thinktwice.me, where I offer free articles. I invite you to click a like or subscribe to my channel, or perhaps both. And I'm looking forward to talking again with you soon. Bye for now.